Another blockbuster from the conclave. You guys are just amazing. I have been working and editing on the piece, and we've just posted it on 5G, and it's really great. But you know, Thomas, folks are going to want to know what you have to say about it, so let me yield the time to you and explain to us. But I'll be here making sure you don't get on the weeds.
Thank you, Betsy, and thank you for doing a great job. You added just some marvelous parts to the report, to the Citizens Intelligence Report on 5G, and gave some interesting perspective. You know, your geopolitical perspective is always appreciated by us isolationist conclave members. Sometimes you have to substitute the word conclave for just cave, not conclave. So anyway, we're in our conclave, and somebody said, isn't it about time that you revealed that in your Internet of Things post that showed the Big Brother, Richard Walker, the guy we call Big Brother, from Intelligent.
Richard C. Walker.
Agilent. Yes, Richard
Yes.
C. Walker from Agilent, a company that is now very, very well off because they have such super technology and such a super patent that they can subsume everything underneath it. So as some of the research on the patent was going forward, it was noticed that there was reference to the type of technology that is now called 5G or fifth generation cell phones and wireless technology. And so we look closer, and they actually in this patent define this type of technology as fascism. Now, the reason that that's important, and the reason that what we're going to say in this audio is not found in the written intelligence report, is because really, when this is known, what we're about to tell you, we refer to in the report, but we don't tell you the bottom line. And so we're going to tell you the bottom line of this audio. As we pointed out, this patent we've discovered, the PNF TRAC, which I won't get into what that stands for. We call it the patent of the Internet of Things, but it really isn't the Internet of Things as referred to by IBM or by Cisco systems. It's a completely different thing. It's the ability to aggressively go in, take over, control, track, and manage any system, whether it be an airplane, a car, a motorcycle, a human being. And yes, we revealed, and it got many people very worked up, that in the plans, you as a human being will be called wetware. And there will be control mechanisms, devices, chips put into your body at different places that can actually control your muscles even against your own will, not to mention the fact, as we have pointed out through many of our recent intelligence reports, this digital age, this wireless age, and the use of cell phones and computers and the internet is more addictive than a digital heroin. It is like a phenol.
Are you kidding? I'm so addicted. I can't do anything but send out truth news. Thank goodness there's an internet. And thank you so much being on the other end, listening and watching and reading us.
But this is the antidote, Betsy. You create the antidote. There's an information war. Remember, the internet was supposed to be created for information, so there could be free information. People believed in the early days when they said the internet, free information, that it would basically free all of us. It has, in fact, enslaved all of us, the exact opposite. Unless you bring consciousness to it. And that's what Truth News headlines and what Betsy does is all about. It is showing how to get through the falsehood information, disinformation that is out there, and learn how to gain the capacity of discernment. What we're about to tell you is going to cut through the nonsense that you've been hearing in the news. And so we could get into describing the whole processes of 5G, what it's about, the health illnesses, the health effects, adverse effects, the ill health effects.
But that's in the article.
But that's in the article.
And the article link is attached below.
So the question is, does 5G harm you? Well, first off, there's only been experiments with 5G in a few places, and they are very limited. So nobody really knows. The experimentation done as scientists did it before 5G was able to be implemented with its specialized antennas showed that it is very harmful. Every type of illness imaginable. So get it very clearly. 4G, microwave, is killing us in 40 different ways. If you go to 5G, the next generation, and you go from microwave into milliwave, then you get into areas that no one even understands, no one has studied. It is worse than guesswork. It is almost certain to harm human beings beyond repair. And we're going to describe why scientists, knowing this, would go forward, because essentially, let's just get down to brass tacks. The debate right now between, Trump just came out again and said, Trump said he did not say he wanted to own the new 5G antenna arrays, 300,000 of them that would have to be put up for 5G to go into effect. It was in 2016 that Obama's administration approved 5G to go into effect and those antennas. But the question is, who's going to build them? Is it going to be AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, or is it going to be the government, or who? Well, here's the deal, and this is the reason Trump didn't say that. Trump knows full well what's going on because he is the commander-in-chief. So what I'm about to tell you, it is not top secret information. Some would consider it to be so, but we found this in open source material. I found it almost 2 years ago.
Yes, but you have to know what you're looking for, Thomas, and you're the brightest light bulb we've got out here, so...
And then it was scrubbed clean. So we had it, but I'm not that bright because I didn't grab it. I thought, this is a patent. This is no problem. The acknowledgement of Google or Alphabet, Eric Schmidt, when you say Alphabet, and then you go rogue Alphabet. When you say Google, you're actually saying Alphabet. When you're saying Alphabet, you're saying Eric Schmidt. When you're saying Eric Schmidt, you're saying rogue tech lord. He's a rogue tech lord. And he already had the contract through Alphabet to put into space Wi-Fi broadcasters on satellites for the military. There was a name for it, and people have used this, and people we know, everybody's used this, and if you didn't, then you weren't at the top. So everybody knows this, okay? But it was also, then it came out in public that he had the patents for these things, the patents for what he calls space routers and space super servers. And then at one point, he bragged, and it came out and got into the news and then was scrubbed immediately thereafterwards, that he actually has people in space on these satellites that are currently working with the military to provide full spectrum broadcasting, what we would call Wi-Fi, but higher than microwave, into the milliwave category. By the way, milliwave, it's millimeter category, but I like to I created the term milliwave because microwave, milliwave, it's even smaller. Problem with 5G technology when it goes into milliwave, and I'm speaking from experience, I worked with microwaves when I was in the NSA, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, didn't you do a lot of stuff early on in the radio world?
Crazy things with microwaves, yes, early on.
And built antennas for the NSA?
Oh, yeah, all of that.
Or the military? Right?
Oh, yeah.
So you do know what you're talking about. And I'm just prefacing this.
I was there when we accidentally discovered these things.
I know, folks. Thomas knows what he's talking about. He actually worked with this technology. Of course, it was a long time ago, but the principles are still the same.
Except that, interestingly enough, Betsy, I can tell you that this has been going on for a lot longer than anyone wants to say. So I can't tell you what I was doing and then tell you the time that I was doing it. You see.
Yes, I understand.
Because that would be a crossover of information. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You can look this up on the internet. When it was available until, of course, Eric Schmidt's Google, Alphabet, scrubbed it clean. So he has these things into space, and they support the military. And whenever they need to, they move to an area, wherever there's a theater of activity, a war theater, they move there, and then they have full spectrum analysis, not only with these microwaves to be able to beam high-speed transmissions that are as fast or much faster, on an order of magnitude faster than a fiber optic cable. And that's the reason for that is these are very, very short waves, very, 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 very millimeter waves, okay? So they are consistent. They're like it's like projecting a cloud, a fog of electromagnetic frequencies, but on such a high level that it is so pervasive, it is basically the speed of light, more or less. So the problem with these things, they don't go very far, and they don't go through buildings very well at this point. Even though there is technology, which we've told you about through Bell Laboratory with their new Cube antenna, which proves that all of this is a lie, by the way. We won't go there. But they already invented a new type of antenna that would make all of these short distance 5G millimeter antennas and broadcasters completely obsolete. but we won't. All you have to look up is Bell Laboratory Cube Antenna. Research it yourself. The point is, we don't need those because we're soon going to have it in space. There's a battle between Eric Schmidt and Elon Musk. Elon Musk is an extension of the U.S. government. He is nothing more than a silicon tech toy. He's one of these blow-up tech. When you think that these people are smart, and then you hear it because they've invented such amazing things, and you hear them speak, and you go, "Wait, they don't even know what they're talking about." That's correct. They don't. Elon Musk is a front. But anyway, Elon Musk and all this stuff going into space, those are satellites. He's already put up 17 of them, and he's doing experiments in different parts of the world. That one that didn't make it into space and blew up recently, that one was headed for South Africa. And you say, South Africa? Why was he going to broadcast Wi-Fi to South Africa? Because it is for human control, not for giving cell phone connectivity. This broadcast of this type of millimeter 5G, as they call it, is in fact creating a pervasive cloud that you can then project anything into a human being, because the human being's body, through every pore in their body, every pore, its conical shape becomes an antenna. It's a special type of antenna. But anyway, the point is that it can receive these millimeter waves, and it does heat them up. Now, the FCC will say, until it's cooking the body and we can see it burning, we're not going to stop 5G because it's going to get faster connectivity, and I'll do anything to get faster connectivity.
But I do want to say, because we have noticed this affect ourselves. We started noticing it last year. Maybe some of you have, where you go out and go shopping and you do your normal thing, and you come back home and you're just thoroughly exhausted. And I don't think it's because we aged a few months or years. I think it is because of all this going through the air.
Electrohypersensitivity, it's called. EHS. It's been studied since the 70s and has been proven 100%. All EMF, all electromagnetic frequency transmissions, what they call radio frequencies, or radio electromagnetism, or radiant broadcasting, whatever you want to call it, all these beams of every radio station in the world, by the way, they bounce around and they bounce off the ionosphere and keep bouncing. So we are getting every broadcast in the world through our body. We even give the numbers. It's something like 20 billion specific broadcasts through your body at any 1 second,
and would this
on
be,
many different levels.
And would this be cumulative, like over all time, like when these beams are shooting around? I mean, they're there for decades and decades, or do they eventually dissipate?
Well, there was a one step beyond and a Twilight Zone version of that, where they said that someone could tune in with the radio into the past, and then there was the question of whether they could tune into the future. So this is very interesting questions, but these electromagnetic frequencies, they don't just die away. They keep propagating, and when they get caught in the human body, wherever your weakness is in your body, that is where they then start to erode your health. So whether it give you fatigue, being overweight, because you're unable to digest food, because the enzymes are dying because of the irradiation. You go into all kinds of things, but the point is that whoever you are, your sensitivities to this will determine what your reaction will be. Now, that's with up to the point of, say, 3G. When we hit 4G and we started to have wireless everywhere and microwave on every single cell tower, we almost started to have a complete microwave cloud of this EMF ill health, adverse waves affecting our body all the time. Smart meters are also wireless, and people are getting sick from that. So there are people who have traveled to parts of America where this is less prevalent, just so they could be away from it. And they find then that their health improves. Well, this has been going on throughout all of Europe and Asia and Russia and China. They've known this, and they've been telling people this since it came into existence. In America, we just make sure that we get out the next iPhone as quickly as we can, so that people's drug addiction, their digital opiate called their smartphone, can then connect them willingly to this system. Now, in the future, the 5G, whether it's from space, and it's going to be interesting. Elon Musk says he can cover the whole world with 4,100 satellites, and he's already got 17 of them in space, being paid for by your tax dollars, by the way. In case you didn't know, Elon Musk is almost completely subsidized by the U.S. government.
So we, the people, taxpayers, are paying for our own digital destruction.
Yes, but we have to beat Eric Schmidt, because as soon as he gets it, then his Atlas robot warriors will be able to conduct war anywhere, because he will be able to rain down Wi-Fi on any part of the Earth, because he has a system where he only needs to now add 3,000 more satellites, and he will have complete global Wi-Fi, 5G Wi-Fi dominance of the world. And then that can beam down to his... Tesla said at that point, it is possible to make a connectivity to the electromagnetic energy of the Earth and basically through the air receive your energy. So these robots wouldn't need batteries anymore. So Eric Schmidt could in fact beam down the energy to the robots and control them through his new satellite system.
Now, I know you don't have to get into details because our regular listeners will know what I'm referring to, but I know that you happen to know a thing or two about the making of Star Wars, and I can't help but think when you describe Eric Schmidt that you're not describing the evil emperor.
Oh, yes. Yes, he would be the evil emperor, wouldn't he?
Really?
He could be a good example of the evil emperor, yes.
How so?
Well, in that the more that he reaches out for power, the older and uglier he looks. And then now he's removed himself from Alphabet and says he's going to be a technical advisor. That means he went over to Boston Dynamics to personally oversee the control of the Atlas Warrior robot deployment. He also immediately then went to North Korea. Did anybody want to talk about that? Why do you think he went to North Korea? Because there's only one landline going into North Korea for their internet. And so all they have to do is cut that line and the entire country no longer has any internet. And that would be very bad for everyone there. It could be like dropping a bomb on people. So Eric went over to offer the fact that he already has a satellite he can put right over North Korea and provide wireless if that happens. You see, Eric he's not an American. He's been long...
he's a warlord, a transnational warlord.
He is worse than even a warlord,
He's the evil
Betsy.
emperor. I mean, think about when I see that image of that darkness of the evil emperor, I think of that and the technology and the way that it's taking us into this evil world of theirs.
He says he's going to live forever. He's already done all the research. When it was illegal, he did it on a barge out of San Francisco with epithelial cells and baby tissue, so on and so forth. And then now that it's legal and they started cloning human beings and they can now do research on it, he's very big into that. And of course, he's into eugenics, wiping out the populations of the earth. He's also into making sure that he controls beyond the U.S. military. You can't stop what goes into space, you see, because once it's up there, who owns it? So he's going to own it. He's going to dominate space. Whoever owns the internet, and we pointed out who owns the internet, and it's a myth to say no one owns the internet. The United States has always owned the internet, and the cables that reach into other countries are connected to our cables, and we can cut them off at any time. That's been demonstrated by country after country, Iran, Turkey, China, so on and so forth. So what is happening? Eric Schmidt wants to be a global tech lord, beyond war. He wants to have the ability, through knowing the backdoor codes, which he does because he learned the backdoor codes from the U.S. military with Google and when he went to social networking with Gmail, with YouTube and all the other things he's done, and all the DARPA work, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. He is one of the major recipients. He was the golden child. Google became the golden child after Cisco passed the baton over to Eric Schmidt, Cisco Systems, who had created all the routers for the internet. He became then the boss because he got wireless. And as soon as you get wireless and you can project wireless, that's the reason he didn't care. He's not going to get involved in saying anything about wireless and the advancement of 5G in terms of antennas on the earth, because those antennas are going to be obsolete in 5 years, completely obsolete. So I would recommend it to Donald Trump, and that's one of the reasons we're doing this audio. Please, patriots, make sure that Donald Trump knows, do not support 5G. Put it into research mode. There's safety issues that have yet to be solved over 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G.
This is a national security issue.
Correct.
After we did the research we did, wow. I mean, look, you don't have to look and see physical ships off of your shores or soldiers landing on your ground to see the threat when you read of the harmful effects on your physical body on all living organisms with 5G.
You see, this is not insider information, but it is kind of. I know the guy who was working on the project to bring Wi-Fi, satellite-driven Wi-Fi, to China, and was one step away from finishing it when then the United States government came in and upset that deal. Well, that was years ago. So now China is forcing the issue. But you see, China is forcing a lot of strange issues. But they're forcing the issue with satellite-driven Wi-Fi and 5G. And they're saying that they're putting a chip into the Lenovo and all these other, which is an IBM company that they bought, which is, they produce laptops in China. They're putting in their own chips, but those chips now, as long as they are American-made chips, because they know that the Chinese chips are bad, they have all the 0-day, all the backdoor, all the encryption, all in them, as well as all kinds of commercialization and spying and blah, 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 all built into their own chip. We're not going to use those chips anymore, according to Trump, not in our military, and we won't use their programs in the military, and we won't use their computers at all, none of the Lenovo. Now they're going to change that over. But what I'm trying to get at is 5G is going to go crazy in China. And so we can stand back and watch the Chinese fry all their people's brains and do research on them if we want to see where unbridled, uncontrolled tech innovation will lead. Right now it's leading to a crisis in American health with our children psychologically, sociologically. Children are now relating to their phones more than they relate to anyone else. And those phones are controlling them. And the faster they get, the more it will control them. Well, we know that's already going on, and that's going on with 4G, with the microwave. But when we go to milliwave, here's the sad news. In the Internet of Things, Richard C. Walker's patent, it points out that this type of fascism must be controlled by a system that is pervasive Wi-Fi so that they can turn the human being into wetware, so that they can have off switches in your brain. Not only will they be able to beam down through Wi-Fi, through 5G, through millimeter radiation, things that can cause people to fall asleep, make their skin feel like it's on fire, make them feel like they're having a heart attack, make them wake up, go to sleep, whatever. You can simply set a certain frequency, a millimeter frequency, and beam it to a human being, and their skin becomes the antenna. And the wetworks that are inside of them, which are going to be added any minute now. Someone just said to me that it seems as if they may be putting experimental nanobots into vaccines in Africa as experimentation to see if they can cause all kinds of effects through nanobots in the human body. Well, this is the type of experimentation they're doing also with high tech, but it's pervasive. No one will be able to hide from Eric Schmidt's Skynet, as they call it in the conspiracy circles. We'll just call it Eric Schmidt's full spectrum Wi-Fi satellites, which is already a fact. And the experimentation, he doesn't need to experiment. It's already a fact. He's already using it, and it's been deployed for years for the U.S. government. So for a variety of reasons, not just military. So what I'm telling you isn't top secret. It's just a fact. Now, will Elon Musk take over so that he can get his satellites up there so that we can somehow, like America basically turned AT&T and Bell Laboratories into basically government agencies? Are we going to do that with Elon Musk's Wi-Fi projection and then act like it's a corporation that can then have control over everything? Yes, we will. Because in the Internet of Things by Richard C. Walker, we hear very clearly that the last thing that they want is a human being or any moving device to have any free will that isn't controlled by what they call aggressive management. Remote aggressive management.
So we're all prisoners in our own body.
We will be as soon as we have 5G, whether it's from antennas on the earth through the 300,000 new small, which will be placed on even telephone poles outside your house without your permission, because they've already overridden communities, regional and states' regional rights so that they can put up these antennas.
Look, I know you guys are out there listening going, holy moly, and it can be quite alarming. In the article that's attached, we do have some solutions and recommendations, but this is the bottom line. This is what everybody out there and it needs to hear. You know, we are the Army. We are the information truth warriors. Nothing is going to change unless you get off your butt and you get this information out to people who are willing to listen to it. So we're counting on all of you out there. Thomas and Betsy were just two little voices, but your voice could be even larger. This is how we win the information war. This is how we stop this kind of global tyranny.
So, President Trump, do not let the advancement of 5G go one step further. Please rescind the FCC's permission to install these dispersed antenna systems for 5G, and to make sure that basically everything Elon Musk is doing stops. And then make sure that you recognize that Eric Schmidt is a global criminal. He is no longer in any way on the side of America, and any advice you take from him is fatal. Let's remember, he ran the U.S. Digital Service to basically pull together every single speck of digital flowing information of Americans, both private and public, into one place, and now he controls that.
To do what? Because some people may not know, and I know that's very important.
To control elections, but also to control your bank account, to control whether you have a digital presence anywhere on the internet. So at any point that they want, they can surveil, target, and attack you. They put you in a digital prison. It's called the dark profile. We already anyone who's ever been typing any queries into Google has a dark profile. And you can be targeted blanketly as, say, Tea Party members. Oh, isn't that a coincidence that how quickly they were able to target them? Or anyone else that you want, undecided voters for the next election. It doesn't matter. These systems, many systems, and now they're teaching this through Peter Thiel, who was, what was he with? Instagram, I think, and before that he was with PayPal, and he was a big investor in Google and Facebook. Anyway, he's Palantir. They show you the CIA open source works, and it's called, another name of it is called Tor. There are many names for this, but they will teach you this in a public setting, how to surveil, target, and attack people, whether for commercial, personal, or cyber warfare purposes. It doesn't matter. That's what he does, and he's going to continue to do this. So wherever he goes, just watch the political, geopolitical, and technological, because technology is now geopolitical because the internet is global. So anything you do on the internet, not only does it control all commerce in America, which means this weaponized form of DARPA's information PSYOPs experiment has gone completely awry, and now technology innovation, which is basically completely corrupt through the U.S. Patent Office, through IBM Eclipse Foundation, proves that completely. The Richard C. Walker, as we call it, the PFC TRAC, or what we call the Internet of Things patent, demonstrates that everything that comes into existence now is going to be able to be pulled into a global, not a U.S. military. When you read this patent, it considers the CIA to be subservient to this patent. It is a global patent that has already been put in place on many levels, that has pulled in so many inventions into this aggressive management control system through digital wireless projection.
And, you know, think about if Hillary would have won the election. It would have just been a matter of flipping the switch, and it would have all come down on us, wouldn't it?
The FEMA camps would be filled with dissenters if Hillary came to power right now. We would have the United Nations would be becoming the ruler
guns
of the North American Union, which would be Mexico, America, and Canada, and on and on and on. Her pay for play would now become insanely global, and what she did to sell us out to China and then later to Russia, she would do to with anyone, and so it would be to these evil tech lords that have been created by her. By her specifically, she helped create them and move them over to the city outside of Moscow called the Tech City.
But patriots came together for that very important election. We got out and we voted and we made a difference. And just like we can make a difference with this, as horrible as this picture is, we can do something about it, can't we, Thomas?
Yes, we can. And this is what all you have to do. Read the article, go down to the place where it tells you to take action, tells you what you can do, tells you what you can do to get yourself out of these fields, tells you how to resist, because it is about resisting this. This is not fait accompli. The reason it is not is because they don't know exactly how to implement this program. So it's at this point only being experimented with in being put into 17 cities in America and other places throughout the world. So we can stop this. And one way we can stop it is, as the FCC said, oh no, we're not going to build these things ourselves and the government pay for them. Because the head of the FCC knows about the satellite version of Wi-Fi. Why do you think Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile aren't stepping up to do this? They already know that Elon Musk and Eric Schmidt are in this war for Wi-Fi dominance, so they would know they'd only have the market for 5 years. So I'm not sure how fast this will go forward, but I will tell you what, folks, if you take a close look at the research, anyone could take this and give it to your own congressmen and senators and say, this has to be stopped.
Yes.
This has to be a grassroots movement. We have to stop this. The conclave, who thought they were so smart, did not know how bad this was until we looked at it and then linked it up with the Internet of Things and the plan of Richard C. Walker's patent, which is to basically turn all of us into cyborgs. And that's not an exaggeration. We're literally soon, with the devices Eric Schmidt has already created that you'll put on your wrist and on your wear as a pair of glasses, you're going to give up your own ability to perceive to your own devices. And then if you happen to need any medicine, you'll have another device that you will implant to do that, another one for your credit card, another one for whatever. So you'll have all kinds of devices implanted in you that will make you Wetworks controlled by 5G.
So in conclusion, it seems to me the wrap-up would be that the way that we overcome the evil emperor is through light and consciousness.
Well, let's look at the way Luke Skywalker did that. As you know, his first name in the first two treatments of Star Wars was called Luke Starkiller.
And you thought that was a pretty bad idea.
I told Marcia Lucas, that's a really bad idea. We're going to change his name to a spiritual name, Skywalker. Because what is a Skywalker? A Skywalker is someone who knows that they are not physical. That is a being who's on the path of ascension through consciousness, who knows that they can conquer the world not through a lightsaber, because that was a bastardization of changing the ray guns that Lucas had first envisioned, that it was basically a shootout with cowboys and aliens in a really childish war games taken to space through the eyes of two robots. Because remember, the whole Star Wars was not supposed to be focused on humans by the first two treatments. It was supposed to be focused on the world through the eyes of robots, because he believed that that's what would happen. Well, no, we changed it into the fairy tale where the human spirit is triumphant. And so what happens? Luke Skywalker isn't just a guy who flies tin cans around space and blows up things. He's going through an ascension process. He's going through the path of the Jedi, which was supposed to not be a path of a warrior, but a path of what is called a fair witness, as Robert Heinlein describes it in one of his books, or others would call it the true purpose of the Jesuits, not the bad purpose of the Jesuits, or others would call the Templar Knights, and the way that two Templar Knights always worked together, and that they didn't have to carry a sword. They had influence, and they had the power through themselves. And the sword was their spine that lit up their pineal gland, that kept any weapon that was shot at them, it would bounce off them like a mirror and go back at the person who shot at them. So no one ever shot at them, because they knew they would shoot themselves. That was the intent of what was supposed to happen. That's who we are. Can we take all these negative waves, even 5G, and turn to them something good? Yes. There are already devices that can cohere these diffuse radiant electromagnetic frequencies, cohere them to a positive one, align it to something positive like the frequency of certain substances on the earth, say gold, and then ray that into your environment. So the more you get bombarded, the more you get the radiant energy of gold in your house, let's say. I'm not making these things up. These things exist. So there are ways to combat this, and they'll for sure come to the market if 5G comes to the market. But right now, we have a second American Revolution happening. Trump is leading it. He can turn around and with the Miller Act, bring forth the social media patents and intellectual property of leader technologies, and he can put to rest Eric Schmidt, Google, Facebook, all the social medias, because they are all illegally derived from a stolen patent. All these things can be done with literally the
stroke of a pen. Seriously.
Yes.
But you know what? All of us out here, we have to be behind him and support him, because it's going to be very disruptive to those citizens who haven't awakened yet.
Keep your phone an arm's length away from you, especially at night. Realize that if you go to the more advanced antennas, even being used now, there is another chip in them, and they are called beamforming, or there's a whole variety of names for it. But what it means is, especially with microwave and absolutely with milliwave, as soon as that connection happens between the antenna and your phone, a special 10 times to 100 times beamforming connection happens, which means that all the studies they're doing on cell phones, they would have to multiply that times 100 if they wanted to find out the true effects. And we've done no longitudinal studies, hardly any, on cell phones, because the antennas keep advancing.
But it's not just the one phone, because it's everything that's beaming in on us. It's your phone and my phone and the Sonos system and all of it.
Absolutely. We are drowning in an ocean of electromagnetic frequencies, and we must, for instance, here's one way to help you. This is going to sound crazy, but if you keep a piece of steel, just basically ionized iron, right? Carbonized ionized iron. If you keep a piece of steel on your skin, it actually absorbs these things, because your entire surface of your skin is one antenna. Even though every pore acts as an enhancer of that, it goes to that piece. So if you wear simply a certain type of necklace, that absorbs this energy and keeps it away from your body.
People are going to want to know about that, so you're going to have to give me something that I can post. All right, Thomas? You can't be saying these things without me giving a source. And then also, the chemtrails and all the heavy metals.
Well, let me go back so I don't have to give a source. Any piece of steel, okay? That's how simple it is. So get yourself a necklace that is iron that's been treated so that it won't rust, and you have yourself carbonated iron, and you have yourself the antidote to what is called diffuse, non-coherent electromagnetic frequencies.
A few other things, too, is, with the chemtrails and all the heavy metals that we know that are coming from them, I want to know if those heavy metals actually make you, when you absorb them, a better antenna for all this.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I want to know, because I want to go to the next step. So what you want to do is you need to start flushing your body to get rid of these heavy metals. And we recommend treatments of liver flushes that we do. I can put some links down below. But also using diatomaceous earth, that can help release the heavy metals. I mean, we have to be proactive in keeping our bodies healthy. It's going to take some time to reverse all of this. So we do need to do something now.
Well, one of the greatest inventors of our time, Dr. Rudolf Steiner, not quite as mechanical as Nikola Tesla, but certainly as prolific. He said that if you take peat moss and you use it as a fiber and you wear it, that you would actually create kind of like a natural Faraday cage. So there will be clothes in the future, and there are now, where you can buy peat moss. So people who are who have electrohypersensitivity can actually wear these clothes. Now, again, I can't give you, I'm sorry, a URL for that, but they do exist because I've known people who actually made these things. So these technologies are there, and they are biotechnologies. They are not high-tech digital technologies.
And then also, there are other technologies. If you really want to go way out there, we know some of our listeners are out there with us. We've designed a special unit called the Cube, and you can activate those by downloading and printing sigils. I'm not going to talk about that. I'll leave the link if anybody's interested.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. You use an antenna in your house that is a sinkhole, so it draws these frequencies to it.
That's why we fly so high around here, because we attract all that energy, take that incoherent energy and turn it into a coherent energy.
And the more that's sent, the more it emits.
Yes,
good energy. So this isn't hallucination. These things have been tested by engineers, and they will. There's many of these. We're not going to get into them because some of them are fraudulent, some of them are real. The ones that are real, just check them out. And if you have electrohypersensitivity, you just have to use them. And if they work, they work. And everybody's different. So we use all kinds of things, bentonite and all kinds of things that, may not work for you, but they certainly do work for Conclave members and all the people that are naturopathic doctors and our people see and all this stuff.
I just want to give a shout out to the engineer who helped us design the internal components of the Cube.
Don't say his name.
I'm not going to say his name. He knows who he is. He watches our YouTubes all the time. But if he cares to, he might drop a comment in the YouTube box and talk about his development of the Cube. And if you do, I will make sure to go in there and give it a thumbs up from the American intelligence media that was actually the engineer.
He listens to every one of these. So, to my dear
Come
Jedi
on.
brother,
Yes.
P.S. Thank you. You have helped us out so many times.
Because we had to
we can't let people know. No one will know this Conclave member, but I just wanted to give him a shout out because he is such an incredible person.
And the story of how we got together to develop the Cube is so remarkable as well. I just loved it when he held it. And, what are we going to do with it? Well, Betsy and Thomas knew the kind of work that we would be involved in. And the first thing is we needed to protect ourselves and our environment. And so this device was developed for that. But then we wanted to reach out and have everyone in the world be able to have that same kind of energy available to them. So anyway, that link is below if you're curious.
Pretty soon, folks, there'll be new types of technology. These things could be put in place just like there are herbal ways to heal you, but Big Pharma certainly doesn't want you to know that, and they war against them, or that the big oil doesn't want you to know of free energy. There are all kinds of new tech that will be so shocking. For instance, how about this? How about broadcasts that heal you? There are already broadcasts that I can tell you about that you have to pay for, but these broadcast to the whole world, and if you have a receiver, and if they identify you and they do a personal identification of your specific frequency, then these things can be broadcast to you for health purposes. In other words, a radio station that broadcasts health. These things are not imaginary. They exist, and the people who get through, who are targeted, or who have electrohypersensitivity, they use these things, and it helps out tremendously. There are many types of using radiant frequencies for health instead of the negative, very earthbound electromagnetic frequencies that are being used by technology. We can use biofrequencies that can heal.